My sister publicly humiliated me in front of 43 guests, toasting my failures at her engagement dinner. So I canceled the $10,000 wedding venue booked in my name. I'm Noah, 31, and I've never quite fit into my family the way you'd expect a son or brother to. On paper, everything looks fine. I have a good IT job, own my condo, and I'm polite, presentable, and reliable. But in my family, reliable just meant someone they could dump responsibilities on without a thank you. It took most of my adult life to realize I'm invisible to them, either the silent helper, the joke, or the fallback plan. Never the son they brag about, never the brother they adore, especially not to my sister Noah. Noah, 28, was born with an innate ability to command attention. She's the type who can laugh so contagiously that everyone joins in, even if nothing's funny. She's smart, beautiful, confident, and just manipulative enough to stay 3 steps ahead while always appearing to be the victim. Growing up, her flair for drama was a weapon. I was always the scapegoat. If something was missing, I found it. If she failed a test, I distracted. If she felt insecure, it was because I supposedly bragged about a high school part-time job. I didn't brag. I mentioned it once at dinner. She cried, and I was grounded. I'd hoped things would settle once we were adults, despite years of resentment. I tried to be supportive. When she dropped out of college after 2 semesters, I helped with her resume. When she wanted a better apartment with her boyfriend, now fiancé, guess who co-signed the lease? When she announced her engagement. Last year, wanting a family-centered wedding, I offered to help in any way I could. That's just me. I help, even if there's no thank you. Even if I'm mocked behind my back for driving a 10-year-old car. Even if I'm not truly wanted at the table I'm expected to set. Her engagement dinner was at one of those trendy restaurants, with dim lighting and fake exposed brick, trying to look both rustic and chic. I'd helped her secure the wedding venue, a ridiculous lakefront property requiring a $10,000 non-refundable deposit. She asked me to put it in my name because her credit wasn't good, promising to repay me within a month. That was 6 weeks ago, and not a single cent had arrived. I kept telling myself she'd get around to it, that maybe this dinner would be a fresh start. Perhaps she'd thank me publicly. Instead, I was blindsided. Mid-dinner. After the servers had just brought out the main course, an expensive chicken dish with an unpronounceable name, Noah stood up, champagne glass in hand. She smiled first at her fiancé, then our parents, then around the room. Leaned in, expecting something heartfelt. I leaned in, hoping. To my fiancé, exclaimed, her voice bright and bubbly, "You're the best decision I ever made. But tonight, I want to thank someone who showed me exactly what not to do. Someone who reminds me every day what settling looks like." She looked me dead in the eyes and smirked. "Let's all raise a glass. To my big brother, Noah, thanks for being the blueprint of what not to become." For a split second, I thought she was joking, some twisted inside joke. But then the room erupted in laughter. Our uncle applauded, my mother chuckled into her wine glass, and even my father grinned, muttering, "Well, she's not wrong." I froze. I didn't say anything, didn't even blink. My hands stayed in my lap as everyone toasted around me, as if I wasn't even there. My cousin Lena, one of the few family members who'd always been kind, caught my eye. She gave me a sympathetic smile, but said nothing. I drank my water, pushed back my chair, and excused myself, saying I wasn't feeling well. No one stopped me. No one even asked if I was okay. I left before dessert. The drive home was physically silent, just the hum of the tires and the occasional blinker as I turned and pulled into my parking garage. But emotionally, my mind was a whirlwind of memories, insults, and echoing laughter. That night, staring at the ceiling, I thought about how many times I'd forgiven her. How many times I'd promised myself this time would be different. Maybe if I kept showing up, supporting her, enduring the rudeness, she'd finally notice me, appreciate me. But now I realized she didn't need to yell to disrespect me. She could do it with a smirk and a toast. That's when I remembered my deposit. The $10,000 venue deposit, still in my name, still a pending transaction in my bank. I opened my laptop, signed in, and read the cancellation policy twice. Then I clicked cancel. No warning, no refund to her card, because it didn't exist. It was all me. I slumped back in my chair. My heart wasn't racing. I wasn't angry anymore. I just felt calm. The first text arrived at 7:30 the next morning, then another, then a phone call, then 3 missed calls, then a voicemail from Noah screaming about a mix-up. How could this happen? Do you even know what you've done? I knew exactly what I'd done, and I wasn't even close to finished. I let the phone vibrate itself silent. I didn't respond, not yet. I made coffee, watered my balcony plants, and ate breakfast. For the first time in what felt like forever, not being someone's doormat made food taste better. But my peace didn't last long. By 10 a.m., my mother called, and when I didn't answer, she texted, "Noah, please pick up. Your sister's in tears. What you did was cruel. So unnecessary. Why did you do this? Are you okay?" The sheer nerve, implying I was in the wrong. I deleted the message. A few minutes later, more texts arrived, this time from Noah herself. A barrage of messages, like a live-tweeted tantrum. "Noah, what is wrong with you? Noah, you've ruined everything. Noah, you knew we needed that venue. I told everyone about it. Noah, you need to fix this today. Noah, I can't believe you'd sabotage your own sister simply because you can't bear to see me happy." There it was. The narrative shifted. I wasn't the victim of a public insult. I was the jealous saboteur. Classic Noah. That afternoon, my cousin Lena called. I answered. She sounded nervous. "Hey, just checking in. Is that toast last night? ... Yeah, it wasn't cool. I wanted to say something, I just ... You didn't," I said, not cruelly or sharply, just stating the truth. "I know. I'm sorry. I felt like if I did, it would have turned into a whole thing and ... and it should have turned into something I cut in. Maybe if someone stood up to her once in her life, we wouldn't be here." She was silent for a moment. "Is it true you canceled the venue?" "Yep." "Wow," she said, in a tone I couldn't quite decipher, half awe, half worry. "She's losing her mind right now. Screaming at your parents, blaming everyone. Her fiancé left their place this morning and hasn't come back." I didn't respond. You know, they were counting on that venue for the engagement photos, right? She continued. "They booked a whole photo shoot around it this weekend." "Then I hope they brought a tripod," I replied, sipping my coffee. Another long silence. Then Lena lowered her voice and whispered, "I know I didn't say anything last night, but I see you, Noah. I really do. Didn't say anything for a moment. Then, thanks." When I hung up, the ensuing silence wasn't empty. It was filled with everything I'd been holding in for years. I remembered Noah getting caught sneaking out of high school and blaming me for giving her the idea. I remembered our family trip when she dropped her phone in the ocean, and my parents forced me to pay for a replacement. I remembered when I moved into my first apartment, she said it smelled like failure, then invited her friends over without asking and trashed the place. I kept giving, but not anymore. The next escalation came that evening. This time, it was Dad. He rarely got involved unless money was on the line, so I knew what his call was about before I answered. "Noah," he said, his tone guarded. "This thing with the venue, ... What's going on?" "Noah says you just canceled it out of spite. Did she tell you what she said about me at her toast?" I asked. He paused. Of course she was joking. "You're too sensitive." There it was. The family refrain, the gaslighting gospel. You think it's a joke to tell a room full of people that your brother is a cautionary tale? I asked, my voice as calm as a lake before a storm. She didn't mean it that way. But she did mean for me to put $10,000 on the line without a contract, and she did. Mean to use me as a punchline. So no, Dad, I don't think I'm going to fix it. "She's your sister," he said, as if the term held more weight than it did. "She's a grown woman," I replied, "and I'm not her safety net anymore." He exhaled deeply, as if I were the one exhausting him. "You'll regret this, Noah. Families stick together." Funny, I said. Mine never did. I hung up. That night, I received an email from the venue confirming the cancellation and refund process. It was returned to my account because it was my deposit. Seeing that confirmation didn't make me happy or complacent. It just made me feel clear for the first time in years. I started to wonder if this was the end of it. Maybe they'd leave me alone and figure things out themselves. It was 9:43 p.m. when I heard a knock at my door. I opened it, and there she was, disheveled, no makeup, hair pulled back, eyes red and swollen. But she still had that faint smirk, as if she knew she'd win. "Can I come in?" she asked. I didn't respond, but she stepped forward anyway. What she said next made my stomach churn. "Noah, I need you to give me the money back." I already told. "People, the wedding's still happening at the lakefront venue. You can rebook it. You don't have to be petty." I blinked. Petty? That's when I understood. She hadn't come to apologize. She still didn't get it. She came to collect, and I was no longer hers to collect from. But before I could say anything, or even take a breath to respond, she made another mistake. She looked around my place, wrinkled her nose, and said, "You really haven't redecorated since college, huh?" I smiled, carefully and deliberately. Reached for the doorknob. "Noah," she said, her gaze widening, "don't do this." I opened the door, but before I closed it, I said 6 words I'd been waiting my entire life to say. "You taught me exactly what not to be." Then I closed the door in her face. I stood there for a while, my hand still on the doorknob, staring at the wood grain as if it held answers. I almost expected her to pound on the door again, yell, cry, and negotiate, but she didn't. Instead, I heard the crisp click of her heels against the hallway tile, followed by the faint echo of her footsteps as she walked away. Or so I thought. It's about 10 minutes later, my phone lit up again. First, my mother texted me, then my father, and finally, a number I didn't recognize. Jordan, Noah's fiancé, called from an unknown number. "We need to talk." I stared at the message for a moment. Jordan and I had only spoken once or twice since the engagement, both superficial occasions. He always seemed decent, not a bad guy, but not someone who thought for himself. Noah had him wrapped around her finger. I used to think so. We're out. Of curiosity than anything, I responded. "About what?" He replied almost immediately. "What exactly happened at the venue?" "She said anything about you last night?" I didn't laugh. "I just wanted you to know that that last line touched me differently," he replied. "You're engaged to her. Why are you texting me?" He said, "Because I believe I am about to make the biggest mistake of my life." I didn't respond, not because I had nothing to say, but because I wasn't sure where this was headed. And I wasn't ready to become someone else's therapist just because my sister couldn't keep her ego in check. By the next morning, however, it was clear Noah had escalated the situation. She shared a long, excessively filtered photo of herself and Jordan on Instagram with a caption, so sweet it could have been coated in syrup. "Can't let jealousy steal our joy. Some people try to tear others down just because they're miserable. But real love rises above." The comments were predictable. "Girl, haters gonna hate and you're glowing. Ignore the negativity, babe, you're amazing." I didn't comment. I didn't even open the post directly. Just viewed the preview someone else emailed me. Of course, their message read, "She's spinning the whole story." I'm sorry, this is getting gross. Yes, it was. Because the story was being rewritten in real time. I wasn't just the brother who canceled the deposit. I was the spiteful villain out to ruin his baby sister's happiness. The truth is, she knew I wouldn't defend myself online. She knew I wasn't the type to air dirty laundry on social media. That wasn't my style. That's why she thought she could get away with it. But she made a mistake there. Because she didn't understand and no one else did that I had something she was unaware of. Something I'd kept out of habit, not expecting to ever use it. When I helped her secure the venue, she was too lazy to complete the vendor paperwork, so I did it. And when they asked for the event's key contact, I put myself, because I was the one who paid, was in charge of correspondence, and received every email, document, and signed agreement right to my inbox. That included the contract PDF and Noah's signed acknowledgement. It wasn't legally binding, not a loan or anything, but she signed a paper agreeing to be responsible for the reimbursement of all booking-related expenditures. What's the kicker? The contract included a clause explicitly stating that any willful misrepresentation of the event by the client that causes public disparagement or reputational harm to the venue or its representatives could result in not only cancellation, but also a blacklist from all affiliated event spaces under that management company. Translation: she could kiss her entire backup list goodbye. So no, I didn't intend to go public, but I didn't have to stay quiet either. First, I forwarded Jordan the original signed agreement. I didn't add any remark, just the document. Several hours later, he responded. He wrote, "So she lied to me? Said you never paid. Said you made it all up to embarrass her. I'm starting to realize I don't actually know who I'm marrying." I just said, "Then it's time you decide who you are without her." The second thing I did was much more subtle. I made a discreet phone call to the venue coordinator, Jill, who had been very pleasant during our brief conversation. I told her I'd canceled the reservation, but was concerned my sister might try to rebook under a different name, using a friend or family member as the applicant. Jill sighed and responded, "That wouldn't be the first time someone's tried that, but thank you for the heads up. We'll flag the name and the event type. We've got eyes." Finally, the third item I waited for, because the next explosion wasn't mine to start. I knew what was coming. 3 days later, it landed. A voicemail from my mother, frantic and confused. "Noah, what did you do? Noah's losing it. She says the venue blacklisted her. She can't get anyone to book her now. What happened? You need to call me. This has gone too far." I didn't call. They felt humiliated. No one called when it was me. Nobody stood up when I was the punchline. Nobody cared as I sat at the table watching everyone laugh at me, as if I were a prop in my sister's comedy routine. So no, I wasn't interested in damage control, and I was absolutely not done because there was still one more card to play. Noah was completely unprepared for what happened next, the thing that would make everyone, including her, look at me differently. And it was already in motion. I just didn't realize it yet. I waited, not out of spite, but for strategic reasons. See, there's a distinction between vengeance and pettiness. Pettiness is impulsive. It reacts. Real revenge, however, is quiet, patient. It waits for the right moment to land. Not when people anticipate it, but when they truly need you. When it hits hardest, Noah was about to learn her lesson in full stereo sound. I didn't answer any of their calls, not Mom, not Dad, and certainly not Noah, who was by this point leaving voicemails ranging from sorrowful to venomous, depending on how desperate she felt. 1 minute it was, "Noah, I'm sorry. Okay, I didn't mean it like that. Let's just move on."